so after waiting almost 4 years, Rob Zombie's new album is finally out. And was it worth the wait? Well, that's what we're about to find out. So without any further ado, let's get into this. Track 1, Fuck the World 84. Okay, so this track immediately gets the album going with a nice classic Rob Zombie groove, and key that I didn't really expect from him. The riff and guitar tone is also pretty damn good, and Rob's vocals, of course, are still great, so I'm gonna say it's a pretty good song. Track 2, Tarantula. So this kind of continues the key of track 1, but has a bit of a faster pace to it, and it kind of reminds me a bit of Static X, and I mean that in the best way, but also still sounds like Rob Zombie, of course. The riff is also pretty good on this one, so I would say it's another pretty good song. Track 3, I'm a Rock and Roller. Alright, this is the third and final single to release from this album, and while I thought this was the weakest single by far, it's definitely not the weakest song on the album. It has pretty good verses and a good chorus, however, the pre chorus leaves a lot to be desired, so I'm gonna say it's a good song. Track 4, Heathen Days. Okay, so this is the second single, and I gotta say, this might be one of my favorites off the record. While it is sadly short, at the same time, it is a heavy, thrashy song that I could definitely see being on Hellbilly Deluxe, and it has a really good, catchy riff, so I would say this is a really good song. Track 5, Who Am I? This is just a spoken word interlude, so there's not really much to say. Track 6, Black Rat Coffin. So this song is another groove song with verses that remind me a bit of Educated Horses, but then a chorus that has more of those Hellbilly Deluxe vibes. But while it has good riffs and the chorus itself is decent, it's not one of my favorites, so I'm gonna say this is a decent song. Track 7, Sir Lord Acid Wolfman. Alright, so this is definitely an interesting song, to say the least. This track seems to go for a more psychedelic metal approach, with a bouncy groove, especially when it comes to the bass. And while I do kind of like the sound, at the same time, the pirate lyrics, particularly the yo ho part in the verses, I find kind of cringeworthy, and it doesn't really fit the song, so I'm gonna say it's another decent track. Track 8, Punks and Demons. Okay, so this is the first single, and I can definitely see why, because it has a lot of elements of both Rob's older work and his old band White Zombie, with a pretty good riff, though the chorus is not that great as it's just repeated lyrics, but other than that, I would say it's another pretty good song. Track 9, The Devil Man. So, this song is a bit of a slower paced song, and it's not half bad. The riff is heavy and catchy, the chorus is pretty good as well, and it's something that could definitely be on his 2016 album, let's just call it, because that title is really long. But I'm gonna say it's yet another pretty good song. Track 10, Out of Sight. Alright, so this track definitely sounds like something you'd play at Halloween, which is pretty par for the course with Rob Zombie. I do like the riff, however, the guitar on this song seems a bit muddled, as in not mixed that well, but other than that, the actual melody of the song is good. So, I would say it's another good track. Track 11, Revolution Motherfuckers. So, I'm not the biggest fan of the amount of distortion on the bass, but the stomping melody in the verses is pretty catchy, I'm not gonna lie. the chorus is also pretty good, and it sounds like a song more akin to the days of White Zombie, so I'm gonna say it's another pretty good song. Track 12, Welcome to the Electric Age. Yet another interlude, so we'll move on. Track 13, The Black Scorpion. Okay, so this song has a bit of a thrash sound to it, and while it does have a decent riff, just like track 4, it's way too short. And I definitely think there's more he could have done with this song, so I would say it's another decent track. Track 14, Unclean Animals. Alright, so this is probably my least favorite off the album, if I'm being honest. Because the key isn't really doing it for me, and the chorus doesn't sound too different from the verses. And Rob has this weird effect on his voice that is entirely unnecessary, though the only thing saving it is the melody in the verses. So I'm gonna say it's an okay song. Track 15, Grave Discontent. The album ends with an interlude, which doesn't really make sense when you consider that the album didn't even open with an interlude, but regardless, this is where the album ends, and since it's an interlude, I don't really have much more to say, so let's move on. Okay, so in conclusion, this album definitely seems like a return to form for Rob Zombie. And while I did like the previous album, I do think this is the direction that was ultimately needed for his music, especially after hearing this record. And is it the best album he's ever put out? No, it's certainly not a perfect one, but it is one of the better albums he's come out with in a long time. So, with that being said, my final rating for this album is an 8.5 out of 10. Pretty good. But that is going to do it for today, and whatever your thoughts are on this album or this review, be sure and leave it in the comments section. And as always, I will see you all next time.